In this video, we're going to look at the idea of chaining together two function processes using function graphs. So I have the graphs of two functions f and g shown here. So to start with, let's suppose we have an input of 3 for our function f. So let's look at x equals 3 for this function f, which is right here. And if we want to know the output of this function f when its input is 3, we look to the function graph. We see that this point here is on the graph, and the corresponding y value or output value for that point is 4. So when the input to f is 3, the output of f is 4. Or we could write that as f of 3 is equal to 4. Now, let's use that output from our function f as the input to our function g. So if we look over the function g, the graph for this function, we can use 4 as an input to our function g. And if we do that, and we look up to the function graph, we see this point on its graph, and the corresponding output value is 2. And therefore, g of 4 is equal to 2. So in this way, we can start with an input value for f, input it into f and get an output value, and then use that output value as an input to our function g. And then the function g gives us an output value back. Now let's go the other way around. So let's start with an input value for g. Let's suppose the input to the function g is 9. So if we look to our function graph of g, when the input is 9, we have this point here, and the corresponding output value for g is 3. So we could say that g of 9 is equal to 3. Now we could use this output value as the input to our function f. So we could use 3 as an input to our function f, which is actually something we already did. We already saw that if we use 3 as the input to our function f, we have a corresponding output value of 4. Therefore, f of 3 is equal to 4. So in this way, we could start with an input value for g, determine an output value for g, and then use that output value of g as the input to our function f, and then get an output value for f. This might seem like kind of a weird thing to do, but it's actually very, very common in the real world. It's very often that we chain together multiple processes in applied problem contexts.